Hey, now the part we all been waiting for, the micro details, actually the fine details. In ZBrushCore again, we in ZBrushCore, we adding those fine details using again our famous brushes. Demo standard, I'm digging in, creating those lines, and where I have those our bones showing in over there, I use the clay butter brush to create that bone texture going on over there, using the diamond standard again with my brush size not that small as you can see on screen, just making sure our lines are straight, cause that will be very handy. Checking the topology again, just making sure you fix it with the smooth brush, very soft, coming in with the Damian standard brush over there. And next, look at that, we using the Damian standard again. So I'm just gonna go through each and every muscle, each and every tendon actually, and making sure our lines are straight, making sure our details are emphasized, which that will work well for us over there. Just digging that in, switching between our subdivisions, because we working on subdivisions right now, so it's kind of easy for us to switch to the lowest subdivisions. So it's important to work with your subdivisions again, as it will make your life very easy. Not too fussy with one place, working on our bone over there, our radialis, our radius bone, our radius bone. So it's kind of showing between those tendon muscles of the tendon, and I'm just using the clay builder brush to create that bony effect that we have going on over there. It's kind of the same technique once again, and then I'm just making sure I know where I'm sending those tendons. I'm not just drawing lines, so it's very important to, you see, like those forms we created in our previous lectures, they're kind of working for us now, because we just drawing in between those forms that we had already, so it's kind of easy for us. So if you have like a bumpy surface, you can just grab your smooth brush and make sure your lines are straight, make sure your surface is smooth and there's no anything bumpy to it, except if it's bones or that can be rough a bit. But your muscles, just make sure they almost smooth. It doesn't have to be like 100% smooth, but then just make sure everything is in place over there. Again, just carving in our extensor radialis longus, and then our brachialis muscle, moving downwards to our extensor radialis brevis, and then our extensor digitorum muscle, and our adductor and our extensor pollicis longus and pollicis brevis. So those that abduct and extend the arm. So just make sure you sending those tendons to the correct position. As you can see, that's where I am sending them. So they originate from the radius bone at the back over there. You can kind of see it over here, but then you need to know your muscle origin and insertion. But then if you just want to study the anatomy, it's very important. Just look at your reference and then know how to sculpt this. Just knowing how to look at your forms, and that's that. So I spent a lot of time with dissections before I tackled this. I don't know if I mentioned to you this before, but I spent a lot of time with dissections, and a lot of research was done before I opened up ZBrush and tackled this. So I suggest you guys do the same. So once you open ZBrush and you start carving your muscles, you kind of know where everything is flowing, because you know the anatomy at the back of your head. If it takes you guys to know the names first, just go through that. It can kind of help you. So again, carving again with the Extensor muscle using the Demian standard, and our tendons that flow underneath over there, having those in mind. Just carving that in, and grab some water. So like at this stage, the Demian standard, or any brush you choose, or the slash brush, any brush you choose that can carve those details, it's the brush we normally use in this last stage when we adding those fine details. So I'm creating the illusion that those tendons that go underneath those muscles and our bones and our metacarpals, etc. I'm gonna be creating that, because what we going through over here, we also showing our bones, actually our skeletal system underneath, and our muscles on top, some of the deep muscles. So what's actually showing, if you peel off the skin, I know that sounds harsh, but then that's how it is over here. And smoothing that out, as you can see, I'm having that bumpy surface, which is not ideal at this stage, as these are muscles. So I'm smoothing that out with a smooth brush, holding down shift. With any brush selected, you can switch to the smooth brush. That's very easy. Those are the basics. I'm just repeating myself because I don't want you guys to get lost along the way. And again, if you have any questions, just don't forget to shout. Using the clay builder brush again, I'm just coming in there, as you can see, ever so slightly. You can, my intensity, I'm on full screen, so you can't see right now, but my intensity, I normally keep it at depends on the situation, but I normally keep it at, like when I'm doing these fine details, I normally keep it at 5 or lower than that. Probably like the lowest I go to, it's 2, 3, 4, 5. You can play around with those and see which works for you guys. Again, it's kind of easy for us, as you can see. If we creating those lines, they almost straight near the vertextorum, and then there's our small muscle over there, the extensor digiti minimi. So the extensor muscles, those are ones are on this side. So the muscles that are facing with your palm. So if you hold down your arm and your palm facing towards your face, those muscles that are also facing towards you, more entirely, those are your flexor muscles. So at the back of the flexor muscles, you have your extensor muscles. So that's a trick to remember those names. It's kind of handy for you guys. So coming in again with the clay builder brush, building up those forms, which it's very important. So like you can get this, like you're currently like working on your fine details, but then you see that actually you missed some of your forms over there. So you can like switch between subdivisions, or just smooth that out, or just do anything it takes to build those forms again. So that's what I'm doing over here. I'm drawing those lines, and I'm working on our trapezius again. So it has 3 heads, as the name suggests. So that's how to remember it. Has 3 heads, and bicep has 2 heads. So I'm building that in. So I'm building up those forms, as I stated previously, that it can happen that you missed those forms at the earlier stage. So you have the freedom to come back and build up those forms ever so slightly with the clay builder brush or any brush that can help you work very faster, or that is more convenient for you. You can select that brush, it is fine, and that's how you can work everything in place. So as you know, we have our elbow, also known that. So I'm creating that bony texture with the clay builder brush, as we also done like on our previous lectures. It's kind of the same technique, so you can like mask and just add that noise, but then it can kind of take time. So you can also use this technique again to build up that that bony texture that you can have over there on our elbow, so known as a lacronon. So I'm just moving that, digging that in with the clay builder brush again, smoothing that out. You can see now I've just switched to another location and then building that up. And then coming back in. Let's see. It's like where I drew those lines, I can come in with the clay builder brush to build that up. So we have our medial epicondyle of the humerus over there, where those muscles originate. So those flexor, those incarnates, from the medial epicondyle of the humerus. So that's the bone we have there going on underneath. So I have my muscles in my mind, I have my skeleton underneath, so I know which bones do show if you peel off the skin, and which muscles cover which bones. So those superficial muscles and those deep muscles which kind of protrude out if you look very, very closely. Again, I'm working on our humerus, and then that empty space over there, I'm also working on that. Pretty much the same technique as our previous lectures. For your classes, it's using these famous brushes. So we don't have much control, but this was just to show you guys that even in ZBrushCore we can achieve this amount of detail. So I believe the maximum amount of polygons you can have for a single subtool is around 20 million, if I'm not mistaken. You can have like 20 million polygons for each subtool, so just you can play around with that. But then it kind of like depends on what kind of system you have, what kind of machine you're using. So don't try to reach that amount of polygons. You can choke your system and your system will start lagging and you can't be able to work properly, and it will take you forever to achieve those details. So we're not even in high res right now. So these arms, I believe, are around 5 million polygons, but I'll show you guys, you will see on our another classes. I'm just on full screen now, but I believe that's all we need to achieve these details. As you can see, I'm very zoomed in right now, so you can even zoom in even more and nothing will happen. So we won't have any problems with that. Again, using the same technique where we have those shapes, those forms, those secondary shapes, we're coming in around those lines, around those forms, and then we're using our smooth brush, smoothing that out, and using our Damian standard to create that illusion of a bone texture effect we have there. Building up that with my brush over there, clay build up, brush, and then so that's our ulnar bone. So it's more medial, so towards the body. That's how to track that. So that's our ulnar bone, the one I'm working on right now. That's how it looks there. So I'm creating that so anyone can kind of differentiate between a bone and a muscle. So normally muscles are quite smooth than bones. Some bones depends on the age actually, but then like some surfaces are quite rough. So it's important to know that when you doing these kind of sculpts over here. As you can see, I'm always exaggerating sometimes. So if you're gonna be 3D printing this, or I don't know how you're gonna be working on this, or if you're gonna export some maps, you kind of lose those micro details. Some of the details get lost, so it's important to just try to emphasize where you can, and that will help you guys to achieve those details wherever you take your 3D models. So you won't be able to, you won't actually like lose any details because you kind of exaggerated from the details you want to achieve. So you won't be limited to anything, whether 3D printing or anything you want to be taking your models to. You will still have those details underneath. So don't be afraid to exaggerate where you can, but not too much. But then just keeping that realism to it and keeping the anatomy in your mind as always. That's what we emphasize again. My intensity is very low, and I'm not smoothing all like the entire bone, so I'm smoothing some pieces. So I just want to show also the rough surface of that bone. As you can see at the edges, it's kind of rough, and that's what I want to achieve over here. And then you can see I'm switching to the radius bone also and creating that same effect also over there. Just moving that out, zooming out to see our silhouette. It's a cool technique to also involve in your guys' workflow. Don't forget about the silhouette and the bones underneath. So basically the skeleton underneath, don't forget about that. That's very important. Grab some water. So as you can see, there is still more work to be done over here. So sometimes it is very important to just close ZBrush, probably like take a break for, depends on how fast your brain freshens up. Probably like open it tomorrow, or after a few hours, probably take a walk or walk the dog or anything that helps you cool down and relax and meditate, whatever works for you guys. So, and then come back and open up ZBrush, and then you'll see those mistakes you had there going on. I'm not saying I'm 100% satisfied with these models. I doubt any piece is complete, but there's always that we have, like as artists, we want to revisit our pieces, our artwork here and there, like as time goes by. So that's how you know you are actually learning. So if you look back at the models you've done probably like months ago or years ago, you can kind of see, like you have this in your mind, like what was I thinking when I published this. But then that's how you know that you are actually learning something. You're actually learning something new. You're actually growing as an artist, because you can actually identify those mistakes, and there's always room for any improvement. So I wouldn't say like these models are 100% done, which that will be a lie. I doubt any art is ever finished, but it always needs us to revisit these models again. But then just make sure you spend a lot of time with this. Just try to push it to the limit as possible. Like when you look back to at them, you won't see too much work needed, but you see like okay, I can probably like add something, but it mustn't look that bad. Again, switching to the other side, carving in our details and then smoothing that out. As you can see, I'm not too worried about the topology now because we have our topology now. Everything is in place. It's coming in there. So now I'm just gonna switch on to the lower subdivision and fix our silhouette. As you can see over there, smoothing that in place, and that's what we get. And then moving back to our high subdivision with D. So to switch between the lower subdivisions on your keyboard as a shortcut, that what I was doing right there. If you guys don't know, it's Shift D to move to the lower subdivision, and then D to move to the highest subdivision. Those are the basics, and I believe you can get it on our ZBrush interface classes that we went through. So you can see the power of working with subdivision levels. So you can kind of switch back and forth with your major forms, so you're not stuck now with those forms. You can kind of correct it when you want to correct them. It is very important to have that in mind when you're sculpting. So once you're happy with everything, so if you're not going to be creating any holes or anything, once you're happy with your piece, if you're not going to be digging in too much, once you're happy with your piece, just make sure you turn off Dynamesh. So you ditch Dynamesh and and then you switch to regular subdivisions, so you can have like a good workflow that won't limit you along the way. So ever so slightly using the clay builder brush and then smoothing that out where I see it's too harsh, and then creating that. You can see I'm never in one place. I'm all over the show, just training my eye to kind of identify those mistakes very easily. So I make sure I have that in my mind wherever I am doing something. Then I clean that up. So that's our humerus. So what I did with this model, it's kind of different with the one with our male and then the figure. So as you can see over here, it's also showing the head of the humerus. So this was something I wanted to try out. Like if you're gonna be 3D printing this, I also created like a hole on our body, so which is larger than this head over the humerus over here. So it can kind of insert, so this ball socket can kind of insert at the humerus. So I was trying this out. If like anyone wants to study the anatomy of the arm, can just remove those arms and then have that for themselves. It's kind of easy to see those muscles very easily, like where they originate and insert. So you can kind of see where everything is originating and inserting over there. Looking on our hand or palm over there, so the hand, it's almost bone, like 100% bone. So it's like 95 or 90% bone, and the rest is muscle, tendons, and a few muscles here and there. So I'm working on our bones over here, just creating that, digging that up. like when you see me smooth out my mesh, you can kind of see how I do things. I don't go too harsh, using the move topological brush to correct our forms. Work on our thumb over there, zooming right in, and then I'm going to come in and build up those forms right there. Okay, sweet. And that's how everything is working out. So this technique works for each and every bone we have going on there. Just moving that out, smoothing that out again, zooming out, just making sure our thumb is looking correctly. Like as you can see, like our fingers, it's not correct by any chance. Just make sure your silhouette it's correct again. And then coming in, fixing those tendons. And then as you can see, our extensor digiti minimi, so the muscle that innervates the pinky finger, just make sure you're sending those tendons to the correct phalanges. Smoothing that out again, and then I'm concerned about my metacarpals. I'm also going to show them underneath, so that's what I'm trying to emphasize there. So as you can see, I firstly drew those lines, and then I'm building up those forms with the clay builder brush, which that's our normal technique that we use for most of our tutorials. That's what we have there. Switching between a low subdivision again, just fixing that, and then moving back up, and then adding those fine details again. So we're not stuck with the shapes we have currently, but then we can revisit those major forms by switching to the lower subdivisions, that you can like move your mesh very easily right there. As you can see, those lines, those tendons are going straight to its insertion, and it has to be anatomically correct, as we stated on our previous lectures, and that's very important to know. Now, saving our project, that's very important also, and smoothing that out, and then adding our muscles. So I don't know if you have noticed our technique. So it's pretty much the same. So what I normally do, I do like a few sketches very soft with the Debian standard, and then after I'm happy, after I see that it's anatomically correct, looking at reference and analyzing everything very closely, I then come in with the clay builder brush, and then come in around those lines, and then I build up those forms around those lines right there, and that's how everything works out very nicely. So I'm just gonna smooth that out a tad. I'm not kind of happy with these bumpy surfaces going on there, so that's when I switch to my reference and just coming in. And so we kind of privileged now because there's tons of reference online, and there's ton of resources. Like you can even go into YouTube and watch dissections if you're not afraid of anything. For some people it's kind of hard, so they never watch dissections, but that's why we created these models, so it's going to be easy for you guys. So we tested these models, and these models actually represent huge amounts of hours and research from medical professionals and cadaver. So it's all about creating that those 3D models, 3D anatomy models that everyone can trust. Surely those type of models can never go like overnight unless you're an expert. But if you're still learning, just give it your all. Don't try to rush everything, but then just give it your all. Smoothing that out. As you can see, I'm in the lower subdivision, just smoothing that out, just making sure there's no, like, the surface, it's not too bumpy. It can be a bit rough, but then not too much, so I'm just cleaning that up, as you can see. So it must kind of be like even, and that's the kind of illusion you must get over there. So we moving towards the end of our lesson. Again, this it's just to show you guys how we do things here at SA Anatomy, how to achieve anatomy figures in ZBrushCore. So if this was done in ZBrushCore, definitely if you have ZBrush, you can do even more. Like, for instance, the articulation part, it can be very, very precise in ZBrush, the big brother ZBrush. So switching between our neck now and just emphasizing those details. So I'm going to end this lecture over here, and I hope you guys grabbed something out of this, and I really want to thank you guys for your time, and just make sure you follow these steps very, very closely, and I will see you guys on the next class. Peace out.